Shalom Israel. Today I'm going to be making a video based on some of the reactions that have been trending on social media space, particularly Facebook, and to a large extent YouTube, Twitter, and so on and so forth. As a high priest and social cultural critic, I am very, very active on social media, reading up on a lot of reactions, a lot of postings that Igbos and other ethnic groups in Nigeria have been articulating. The social media, of course, is a space of a free market of ideas, a place in which people espouse, propagate, attempt to disseminate their views, their viewpoints, their opinions. And I'm also gonna, make a comment regarding an op-ed, opinion editorial somebody wrote on Facebook, referring to Yehudim and the way in which many Igbos have resorted to dual worship. They are worshiping as Christians and at the same time as Jews, and this is creating a lot of confusion. I'm going to try to also address that among other issues that have been trending on social media. And then I'm also going to, first of all, address the issue of the ways in which it's not only the Igbos who are Jews of Nigeria. I was, kind of spurred, I kind of had a vigorous and serious engagement with one Facebook contributor regarding this notion. This particular notion is not very common among the Igbos. Igbos have a unanimity of purpose. They have a unanimity of agreement that in Nigeria it's only the Igbos who are considered Jews. But the gentleman who happens to be an Igbo himself is arguing against that kind of mindset, that kind of thought process, that there are other tribes that are Jews in Nigeria. And then we were going back and forth, and then some other people joined in supporting my point of view that it's only Igbos who are Jews in Nigeria. There may be other Igbo, Jews in Africa, like the Lemba Jews. Some have been discovered in the Cameroon, in Ghana, and so on and so forth. But in Nigeria, it's only the Igbos who are considered Jews. And I know his point of view is that we should not, propagate the ideals of tribalism by referring to, Jewish synagogues as Igbo Jewish synagogues. See, it's important to qualify these synagogues with the adjective, Igbo Jewish synagogue. It's very, very important. The noun and the adjective, I'm sorry, they go hand in hand. If you just refer to these spaces of worship as Jewish synagogues, you are missing a very important component in the cultural identity of Igbos. The synagogues belong to the Igbos. Now, I know he attempted to argue that the synagogues must be democratized in a way that it creates a universal access for others who are not Igbos to also go into those synagogues to seek the face of God. And I did not I disagree with him. Synagogues, even in the Western cultures, are not just restrictive spaces of worship. People who are non-Jews can go into synagogues and worship with them. But that does not in any way, shape, or form, confer on them the privilege, the birthright, or the ancestry of being Jews. Only the Igbos are Jews. They can allow others to worship in their synagogues. There is only one way to become Jewish, either by birth, ancestry, or by through your ancestors, through your background. Now, Igbo Jews don't have the prerogative nor the authority to to convert people to Judaism. There's only one way to become Jew: by birth, and then in rare in rare cases by conversion. And the Igbos don't have that authority to convert the other ethnic nationalities of Nigeria into Jews. Only the rabbinical council and under the rabbinical council of Israel and similar bodies have that authority, and is an authority they exercise with due diligence. They exercise with a great amount of responsibility. The only time I read about mass conversion of Jews, of people who were not Jews, whose ancestors were not Jews, was in I think in Peru or Chile, where about 90 individuals who, even in their own self-reporting, argued that their forefathers, their ancestors, were never Jews. They were native. They were of the native, peoples of that geographical area. I think it's in Peru, and about 90 of them were converted by a very powerful and respected rabbi. That's the only situation where people can be converted and they become Jews. Otherwise, you gotta become you only a Jew by birthright, like the Igbos. Igbos have been Jews since the beginning of time, right from ancient Israel. So we were going back and forth, and it is through social media that I used to derive some of the inspiration with which I make some of my videos, and then I thought this was an interesting, point that I need to, make into video, because this is a very dangerous misconception that people of other ethnic groups, like the Yorubas or the Hausas or the Fulanis or the Benis are Jews. No, they are not. Only the Igbos are Jews. This has been confirmed through narratives, through legend, that's stories passed down from generation to generation, from our forefathers, from our ancestors, from written records. For example, the former Secretary of State of the United States in 1969, in an official memo, described Igbos as the Jews of West Africa, aggressive, westernized, and never liked by their neighbors. The Ola Oda Equiano, I don't even think that's his correct name, because Igbos don't name their children Ola Oda. He also read an autobiography. Autobiography meaning somebody writing his own life history. Articulated eloquently and excellently the argument that Igbos and Igbos are Jews. They have the same customs, the same conventions, the same mores, and one came out of the other. The Jews, the Igbos, buried, circumcise their male children on the 8th day. They don't have any intimate relationship with women who are experiencing their menstrual cycle. As a matter of fact, they isolate and quarantine them, and we have the same Jewish way of burial, burying our dead. We bury them according to Jewish customs, Jewish laws, Jewish ethos, and Jewish ethics. So you can't, just because you're walking into a synagogue, a Igbo Jewish synagogue, because I like to use the term with promiscuity, Igbo Jewish synagogue. I have to connect the three of them. There has to be a proper syntax, Igbo Jewish synagogue. I'm not going to just say Jewish synagogues, because that distinction is very, very important. After all, there is a church named Synagogue of All Nations. That's not a Jewish temple. That's a church. So it's important to clearly to clarify where the Igbos belong. Their worship space is known and called EBU Jewish Synagogues, so that we don't create any confusion or any misconception or understanding of the cultural identity about Judaism. And then Judaism is not just a religion; it's a cultural identity. It's a cultural identity of a people who, by heritage, by ancestry, by background, by birth, are known as Jews. They, so that it encompasses. It's not Jewishness is not a restrictive conception. It encompasses Western cultures and civilization. It encompasses entrepreneurship. It encompasses medicine, law, being prudent, being frugal, being a go-getter, knowing the cost of everything and the same, and as well as the value of the same. That's what Judaism is. It's not just going into synagogue and worshiping and coming out. It's your entire being. It's your conception of life. It's the way you the way you behave, the way your value system, your cultural identity. That's what Judaism is. So anybody arguing that the other ethnicities and nationalities of Nigeria are also Jews is missing the point. And this can be a very dangerous, slippery slope argument when Igbos are not well versed and conversant about their background, about their identity. They should leave that to the intellectuals, to members of the Igbo intelligentsia, to dissect, deconstruct, and make clear the background of the Igbos. People should not rely on internet articles, articles that are not peer reviewed, articles that are not grounded and based on research, on empirical evidence, to present claims that are not valid. The Igbos are the only Jews in Nigeria. This has been validated by authorities in Israel, even though it has not been official, but they know the truth. And many organizations have reached out to the Igbos, Shavei Israel, many rabbis, many high priests in Israel and elsewhere. One rabbi, Christopher, who lives out there in Canada, has been making videos supporting Igbo Jewish ancestry. They have not made the same. They have not made the same argument in favor of other ethnic groups being Jews in Nigeria. This is very, very important. Others are Muslims. They are Christians. They are animists, and some of them don't believe in any organized religion. It is only the Igbos that have Jewish ancestry, even though some of them do go to church, and I'm going to address that shortly. But it's important to understand that just because the synagogue has been created as a place where people can go to seek the face of God, does not confer on those individuals any right to Jewish ancestry. Jewish ancestry is by birth, is by by background, by being a offspring of Jewish people. Now, there is another op-ed. Op-ed means opinion editorial. It's not only in the newspapers that you can see op-eds. Even on the internet in this day and age, people write their opinions. Opinions are their feelings, their thoughts, their musings about phenomena. This individual writing anonymously. Anonymous means is an unnamed source that Igbos are given to Do religion. Do means two religions. Some are Christians, some are followers of Judaism. And I think that's a very important point the individual is making. but I'm going to try to unpack some of the arguments he put forward, even though there was less clarity in most of the things he wrote. But the what I have to take out of what I have to take out of his piece, his opinion piece is the fact that he is upset with the fact that Igbos are Jews, but many of them are still stuck in the Christian church. But I am trying to say to you that it is true that many of our, even in my own family, they think I'm a sellout. They think I'm confused. I've lost my mind. I don't even know what I'm doing. Many of them are still going to church, not because they don't see themselves as Jews. It's just, first of all, they are confused about what is happening. These are the people who were born in different churches. They were baptized in churches. Their parents go to those churches. They need to, access more information about the conceptual underpinnings of Judaism. And if somebody, is able to provide adequate resources, more information, like I've been doing on social media, I'm not doing it because I want to win a popularity contest. I am doing it because this is the mandate of God over my life. He spoke over my life that I should now begin to educate our people regarding returning to their ancestry, their Jewish ancestry. If a lot of people can join in and begin to educate our people based on their own understanding and the information and the research they have made, I bet you many of the Igbos who are still stuck in the church will start making their way to synagogues and temples. And to the credit of many Igbos, you can see that if you watch social media, if you watch YouTube, Facebook, you're going to see a lot of Igbos, especially the youth, leaving churches in mass and going to the synagogues and then reconnecting and re-emerging as Jews. It's not going to be something that is going to happen overnight, but a lot of progress is being made. Even the authorities in Israel are reluctant to validate and affirm Igbos as Jews, not because they are not satisfied as well as gratified that Igbos are Jews. It's just that a lot of Igbos are still in the church. They are still stuck in the church, not because they want to remain in churches. It's just because they need the knowledge, because it says my people perish for lack of knowledge. That if somebody goes to provide information, provide resources, like I've been doing in the last couple of years, speaking about Igbo Jewish ancestry, providing resources, teaching them, then you're gonna see many of them will leave those churches and return to their roots. I think Nnamdi Kanu's appearance in Jerusalem, and then some of the the lectures he has been giving has also galvanized a lot of Igbos into recognizing their roots, into recognizing their Jewish roots and ancestry, and many of them are making their way back. This is not a political video. This is just about cultural identity. It's not about statehood. It's not about any other consideration. But this is, as a priest, as a high priest, and a sociocultural critic. It is my, obligation. It is incumbent on me to make available the information that I have garnered over the years, and so that people can use this information to make informed decision. They've been going to churches for many years, and then I don't think anything has come out of it. It's time they go back to Omenala. That is our cultures, our customs and conventions. If you're not an Igbo person or those similarly arrayed with our cultures, our customs, our conventions, our mores, you are not a Jew. You are not Jewish. only the Igbos, and those similarly arrayed with our cause. Igbos have paid a heavy price just for being Jews. Beginning from 1945, that's when Igbos started experiencing massacres, pogroms, mass murder, persecutions, just being Jews. Again, being Jews is being Jewish is not just going into the synagogue or the temple and worshiping. It's the agglomeration of ideals, tenets, ethos, sense of industry, being prudent, being frugal, being industrious, building assets, building wealth for your family, traveling around the world, going even into the farthest part of the world to settle, to be able to make a living. These are the ideals that make Igbos Jews. Just like Jews of Western and Eastern Europe, they are all over the world. They travel to the far ends of the earth to look for opportunities. That's the same. That is the same mindset, the same idealistic, mindset that Igbos have, and these are the things in aggregate that make them Jews. So you cannot just consider yourself Jewish if you're Yoruba or Hausa or Bini or any other tribe, just because you have identified with Igbos worshiping in their synagogues. We welcome people to come to Igbo Jewish synagogues to receive blessing. Because Jews are the light of the world, and in a light of a dark, dingy, dangerous world. So when people who are not Jewish by ancestry come into our synagogues, we extend our light as Jewish people. We extend the light to them. We illuminate their path. We bring understanding and enlightenment. We allow them to be molested by enlightenment, because Jews are the enlightened people. Jews of Western and Eastern Europe, and to a large extent Igbo Jews, have been responsible for the emergence of Western civilization and culture. Jews authored the Bible. Jews founded Christianity. Jews made a very significant and serious impact on Islam. The first church that was founded in Jerusalem was populated by Jews. Jesus Christ himself, who founded Christianity, was Jewish. Apostle Paul, who expanded Christianity to all corners of the earth, was Jewish. So you can see the impact of Jews around the world. The Jews were the ones who have been predominant and preeminent in the movie industry, in the movie industry in Hollywood, and now Nollywood in Nigeria. Igbos are the ones who have been expanding the Nollywood industry, just like their counterparts in Hollywood. Jews own the newspapers. Jews have been responsible for building all the real estate in the United States. Jews are influential in medicine, in politics. Jews have had a tremendous impact in the academe. That's the academia. Jews have built universities. Jews have built all kinds of assets and resources. Jews have brought enlightenment to the world. The same thing with Igbo Jews in Nigeria. Igbo Jews are the ones who expanded politics. Igbo Jews were the ones who fought for Nigerian independence when others were other ethnic groups and tribes were comatose and moribund. They didn't want independence. It was the Igbo Jews that went to study in the United States and came back with the experience, with the knowledge that they acquired at the ivory tower in the Western world, to prevail upon the colonial masters to relinquish Nigeria to its indigenous people. It was the Igbo Jews that made that possible. So Igbo Jews have been very, very influential in bringing enlightenment. So we welcome people who are not as knowledgeable, who are not as talented as our people, to come into Igbo Jewish synagogues to worship, to be blessed. So to that extent, I did agree with that individual writing and in the social media. And then another issue that struck me, that arrested my attention, was an individual writing anonymously and referring to Igbos as dole worshippers, and referring to them as Yehudim. I wasn't really sure, where he was going with his point. I think he was referring to Igbos, as Yehudim, because in his own opinion, he thought Yehudim meant people who, subscribed to dual worship, either Christians and as Jews. But Yehudim is another name. I believe it's a Hebrew or a Hebrew name for Jewish. You either Yehudim or Jewish. So and then he was castigating and denouncing Igbos for that kind of mistake. And I'm trying to say to him that he has to calm down. The same thing I'm saying to our Anglo-Saxon Jewish brothers who have become agitated and anxious about the number of Igbos who are re-emerging as Jews. The last count, there are between 60 to 7 million Igbos in Nigeria, and as well as the ones in the diaspora, and the rate at which they are re-emerging and reconnecting to their Jewish roots, is causing tension. Some people, are afraid of and being threatened by this emergence, and I'm asking them to calm down. There is not going to be any mass migration of Igbo Jews to Israel. It's going to overwhelm and choke up the population. We know that, but we need resources in our present geographical location. We need agricultural innovation. We need the technological and digital evolution that is taking place in Israel. We want transfer of those resources so that our people can live in dignity. We are not re-emerging, as Jews, because we have a, we have a plan to make anybody comfortable. We have a plan to go and take over any place. Even though if you allow the Igbo Jews, they're going to take over in any place that they find themselves. Maybe not necessarily, but they're going to work very hard to make sure that they get a fair shake of whatever resources that are available within any geographical space they find themselves. So I am just appealing to people to pipe down, to calm down about the sudden emergence of Igbos in terms of getting back to their roots. I knew this day was going to come when Igbos will wake up from their slumber and then go back to the God of Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac. I know that this day will come when Igbos will recover from their sleepwalk, and remember that they have to surrender their very being to Adonai, to Elohim, to the God of their forefathers. We have always been Jews. We have paid heavily. We have faced persecution, pogroms, massacres, genocide, just for being Jewish, just for working hard to get ahead, to get a fair shake of the resources within the geographical area where we have found ourselves. This has not gone down very well with our neighbors. Our neighbors, have despised us. They have hated us with a passion. They have killed our people. And since 1945, the first massacre occurred in the town of Jos in the north. Another one occurred in 1953 in Kano. Another one occurred in 1966. And ever since, Igbos have endured policies that have been fundamentally inimical and hostile to their survival. It has not stopped. In fact, it has been the massacres, the genocides, the pogroms have doubled down. They have increased in intensity. Igbos are being hounded in Nigeria. A lot of them are being rounded up, and incarcerated just for walking around and marching in solidarity of their Jewish faith. It's not going to stop even if you juxtapose the existential misery that Igbo Jews have been enduring and have been facing with the same existential quandary that Jews of the Western and Eastern Europe have endured. You're going to see that it seems to even out. Just recently, 11 Jews were massacred in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, just for being Jews, just for worshiping in their synagogue. And then if the roll call of all the atrocities, the genocides, the pogrom, and ultimately the Holocaust that Jews of Western and Eastern Europe have endured and suffered, it's going to be mind-boggling if I have to begin to enumerate, enunciate, underline, and underscore all the tragedies and all the inhumane treatments that Anglo-Saxon Jews have endured for just being Jews. Igbo Jews will realize that this is just their lot. This is what you have to give up for being Jewish, except if you want to capitulate, abdicate, and surrender your birthright, your ancestry as being Jews. But if you want to stand in your authority as Jews, these two will come to an end someday. Whoever knew that Israel will come into existence in 1948 after Jews were dispersed during the fall of the first and second temple in about 732 BC. BC means before the Common Era. That's the politically correct concept that is being used in this day and age. BC used to be regarded as before Christ, but some people took opprobrium. The people took exception to the reference to Christ. Now it's called BC, before the Common Era. Jerusalem and Israel has changed hands several times. From the Romans to the Greeks to the Arabs to the Turks to the British. They keep passing it from one country to another like joint. But today the state of Israel has become the state of the art country, where there is a technological and digital evolution like we have never known before, where there is a agricultural revolution, where the roads are extraordinarily straight and well paved, where the only democracy in the Middle East exists, where the people believe in their own government. So a time like this, a time of social-cultural efflorescence will also, come into the space, into the geographical space of Igbo people, when we will worship in our synagogues and in our temples and give glory to Elohim, to Adonai, to our God, to God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. A time like that is already in the atmosphere, is already in the firmament, is already in view. You just have to stand in your authority. You just have to continue to believe in your leaders. God is on our side. The massacres are not going to stop. The harassment, the pogroms, genocides, God forbid the genocide, God forbid the Holocaust, perpetrated against Eastern and Western European Jews will never be our lot. But our Igbos under existential threat, that is for sure. So, but we need to endure. We need to continue to believe in our God, in Elohim, in the God of Israel, and everything will be all right sooner than later. This is going to be the end of my podcast for today. If you like this podcast, I want you to subscribe by pressing on the rectangular red button on the lower left corner of your screen. Subscription does not cost you a dime. What it means is that every time I produce a video, you will be the first to receive it. Every time I make a podcast, you're gonna be the first to receive it. It's not gonna cost you anything. I'm not monetizing it right now because this is the mandate of God. God has asked me to provide knowledge for our people because the people perish for lack of knowledge. I am, I have this mandate. It is incumbent on me to exert this enlightenment on our people. I'm also open to constructive criticism. I see a lot of it in my videos. There are boxes where you can go and write your opinion. There is no hard feeling. People have the right because the social media space as well as mainstream and mass media space is a place of free market of ideas where people can go and espouse, where people can go and propagate, where people can go and plant, and where people can go and argue their feelings, their opinions, their thinking, their musings. So until I come your way again, this is your high priest and sociocultural critic, and I'll be signing out right now. Shalom, and thank you very much.